For every stadium that actually gets built, there are plenty that never make it past the fight. Some die at the ballot box. Some collapse because the money never lines up. Others get crushed by politics, lawsuits, land disputes, neighborhood opposition, or leagues that simply refuse to approve the move. The common thread is that these were not random ideas drawn up for fun. Many of these were serious stadium and arena proposals with renderings, public campaigns, land deals, political support, and in some cases, formal agreements. Then they fell apart. These are some of the most notable rejected stadiums and arenas in modern sports. The first major example is the New York Jets' Westside Stadium, one of the biggest stadium failures in American sports history. In the early 2000s, the Jets wanted to leave New Jersey and build a new home in Manhattan. The proposal called for a retractable roof stadium over the rail yards on the west side, near what is now Hudson Yards. It would have been the permanent home of the Jets, an expansion of New York City's convention space, and the centerpiece of the city's bid to host the 2012 Summer Olympics. The plan was massive. The stadium was expected to seat roughly 75,000 people and cost close to $2 billion. Supporters argued it would transform an underused part of Manhattan, create new development, and bring major events to New York. But the project also required hundreds of millions of dollars in public money, and that became the breaking point. Opposition came from multiple directions. Local groups worried about traffic and neighborhood disruption. Critics questioned why taxpayers should help pay for an NFL stadium in Manhattan. Cablevision, the owner of Madison Square Garden, fought the project hard because the new stadium could compete with the Garden for concerts, conventions, and other major events. In June 2005, the New York State Public Authorities Control Board refused to approve the public financing package. Without that approval, the Westside Stadium was finished. The impact was immediate. New York's Olympic bid lost its planned centerpiece venue, and London was later awarded the 2012 Summer Olympics. The Jets eventually partnered with the Giants on MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, which opened in 2010. Manhattan did not get an NFL stadium. Instead, the area around the rail yards became part of the Hudson Yards redevelopment, filled with office towers, apartments, retail space, and public plazas. The Westside Stadium remains one of the clearest examples of a project that had enormous political weight behind it, reached an advanced stage, and still collapsed before construction ever began. Another major rejected NFL stadium came in San Diego. For years, the Chargers pushed for a replacement for Qualcomm Stadium, which had opened in the 1960s and was considered outdated by modern NFL standards. The team wanted a newer venue with more premium seating, better club areas, modern revenue streams, and the kind of event infrastructure that newer NFL stadiums were already using. By 2016, the Chargers backed a downtown stadium and convention center proposal known as Measure C. The plan was estimated at about $1.8 billion. It would have raised the hotel room tax to help finance a new stadium and convention facility downtown. The Chargers argued that the project would keep the team in San Diego and bring new event business to the city. But the proposal faced serious problems from the start. It needed 2/3 voter approval, which is a high bar. The tourism industry opposed parts of the plan. Many residents were not convinced the public should help fund a stadium for the team. Others questioned whether downtown was the right location, or whether the convention center element made financial sense. On Election Day in 2016, San Diego voters rejected Measure C. It received about 43% support, far short of the 2/3 required to pass. That vote changed the future of the franchise. After more than a decade of failed stadium efforts in San Diego, the Chargers announced in January 2017 that they were relocating to Los Angeles. They eventually became tenants at SoFi Stadium with the Rams. So in this case, the rejected stadium did not simply kill a building. It helped end the Chargers' time in San Diego. A more recent example is the Kansas City Royals' rejected downtown ballpark plan. The Royals had been exploring a move away from Kauffman Stadium and into a new downtown ballpark. In 2024, the team focused heavily on the East Crossroads area near downtown Kansas City. The proposal was tied to a larger stadium tax vote that also included funding for Arrowhead Stadium renovations for the Chiefs. The ballot measure asked Jackson County voters to approve a 40-year sales tax extension. Supporters argued it would help keep both franchises in the area and modernize Kansas City's sports infrastructure. The Royals promoted the downtown ballpark as a way to create a new entertainment district around baseball, while the Chiefs presented Arrowhead renovations as necessary for the long-term future of the stadium. But the public reaction was rough. Many voters were skeptical of using long-term tax revenue for sports facilities. Some local businesses in the proposed Crossroads site worried about displacement. Others felt the plan lacked enough detail, especially around costs, land acquisition, parking, and how much taxpayers would ultimately cover. In April 2024, Jackson County voters rejected the sales tax extension by a clear margin. More than 58% voted no. That immediately derailed the Royals' East Crossroads ballpark plan. The Royals did not give up on a new stadium, but that specific proposal was rejected. It forced the team back into negotiations and showed how difficult stadium funding votes have become. Even when a team argues that a new venue is essential, voters are increasingly willing to say no when public money is involved. The Philadelphia 76ers Center City Arena is another recent case, and it is unusual because the project was approved before being abandoned. The Sixers wanted to leave the building, then known as Wells Fargo Center in South Philadelphia, and build a new privately developed arena on East Market Street near 10th and 11th Streets. The project, called 76 Place, was estimated at about $1.3 billion and was planned to open around 2031, when the team's lease was expected to expire. The arena became one of the most controversial development fights in Philadelphia. Supporters said it could help revive Market East, bring more foot traffic downtown, and put an NBA arena in one of the most transit-connected areas in the city. Opponents, especially in and around Chinatown, argued the arena could create traffic problems, raise rents, pressure small businesses, and damage the neighborhood. After more than 2 years of debate, Philadelphia City Council approved the arena package in December 2024. At that point, it looked like the Sixers had won. Then, only weeks later, the team changed direction. In January 2025, the Sixers reached a deal with Comcast Spectacor to remain in South Philadelphia and pursue a new shared arena plan in the existing sports complex instead. That meant the Center City Arena was dead almost immediately after being approved. That is what makes the 76ers case so strange. It was not rejected by voters. It was not blocked by a final council vote. It survived the political process and then was abandoned anyway. After all the hearings, protests, lobbying, and public debate, the final result was that the arena would not be built. The Tampa Bay Rays Ybor City ballpark is another stadium proposal that looked serious before collapsing. For years, the Rays searched for a replacement for Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg. One of the most promising ideas was a new ballpark in Ybor City, a historic neighborhood in Tampa. In 2018, the team unveiled plans for a modern, fixed-roof ballpark on a site near downtown Tampa. The Ybor City plan was appealing because it placed the Rays closer to the larger Tampa population base, which had long been a criticism of Tropicana Field's location. Supporters believed a Tampa ballpark could improve attendance, sponsorships, and the long-term stability of the franchise. The proposal was ambitious. It called for a small but modern MLB ballpark with a translucent roof, artificial turf, and a capacity of just over 30,000. The cost was estimated at nearly $900 million when stadium and infrastructure costs were included. But the financing never came together. The Rays were operating under an agreement with St. Petersburg that gave them a limited window to explore sites outside the city. By late 2018, the team said there was not enough time to complete the deal. The project required complicated public and private financing, site control, infrastructure planning, and political support across multiple local governments. In December 2018, the Rays announced that the Ybor City plan would not move forward. The team did not secure the funding or approvals needed before the deadline. That failure kept the Rays stadium saga alive for years. Later plans at the Tropicana Field site also became complicated, and the franchise continued searching for a permanent solution. The Ybor City proposal remains one of the clearest examples of a stadium that made sense on paper but collapsed under the weight of financing and timing. Another rejected stadium story belongs to the Oakland Athletics and their attempted move to San Jose. Before the A's relocation saga moved toward Las Vegas, San Jose was one of the most discussed alternatives. The city wanted to bring the A's to the South Bay, and the team explored a downtown ballpark there. The problem was Major League Baseball's territorial rights system. San Jose sits in Santa Clara County, which MLB recognizes as part of the San Francisco Giants' territory. That meant the A's could not simply move there without league approval. The Giants opposed the move, and MLB never cleared the path. San Jose eventually sued Major League Baseball, arguing that MLB was blocking the city from landing the team. The legal fight moved through the courts, but San Jose lost. In 2015, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear the city's appeal, effectively ending the effort. This was a different kind of rejection. Voters did not kill it. A city council did not kill it. Financing was not the only problem. The league structure itself blocked the idea. The A's continued searching for a new ballpark solution in Oakland, Fremont, San Jose, and later Las Vegas. But the San Jose plan stands out because it shows that even when a city wants a team, and a team is interested, league rules can still stop a stadium before it happens. The New England Patriots' Hartford Stadium proposal is another fascinating case. In the late 1990s, Patriots owner Robert Kraft reached an agreement with the state of Connecticut for a new 68,000-seat stadium in downtown Hartford. At the time, the Patriots were still trying to solve their stadium problem in Massachusetts, and the Hartford plan looked like a real relocation threat. Connecticut offered a state-financed stadium deal, and for a brief period, it looked possible that the Patriots could leave Foxborough and move to Hartford. The plan would have placed an NFL team in downtown Hartford and dramatically changed the sports map of New England. But the project quickly became more complicated than expected. There were concerns about the site, infrastructure, timing, and whether the stadium could open when needed. The agreement allowed Kraft to terminate the deal if the schedule became uncertain. In April 1999, the Patriots officially terminated the Hartford Stadium agreement. Kraft said the project had become too complex, and that opening by the expected date was no longer certain. Instead of moving to Connecticut, the Patriots stayed in Massachusetts. Gillette Stadium opened in Foxborough in 2002. This rejected stadium changed NFL history in a quiet but huge way. If Hartford had worked, the Patriots dynasty of the 2000s might have been based in Connecticut instead of Foxborough. The team stayed put, and the Hartford Stadium became one of the biggest what-if projects in NFL history. Seattle had a similar story, but with a much harsher ending. Before the SuperSonics left for Oklahoma City, there were multiple attempts to solve the team's arena problem. Key Arena had been renovated in the 1990s, but by NBA standards, it quickly became outdated. The building had fewer premium revenue opportunities than newer arenas, and ownership argued that the team could not remain competitive there long-term. After Clay Bennett's ownership group bought the Sonics in 2006, they pushed for a new arena in the Seattle area. One of the major proposals was in Renton, near the south end of Lake Washington. The plan called for a new arena that could host the Sonics, the WNBA's Seattle Storm, concerts, and other events. It was presented as a regional solution rather than simply another renovation of Key Arena, but the financing was the problem from the beginning. The ownership group wanted a large public contribution, reportedly around $300 million in taxpayer support, for a project costing more than $500 million. Washington had already been through years of stadium debates with the Mariners and Seahawks, and there was limited appetite for another major public arena deal. The Renton Arena plan died when state lawmakers failed to move forward with the funding. Without a new arena agreement, the Sonics' future in Seattle became unstable fast. Bennett's group eventually reached a settlement with the city, and the team moved to Oklahoma City in 2008, becoming the Thunder. That rejected arena still hangs over Seattle sports. It was not just a failed building, it was the last serious arena push before the city lost its NBA franchise. Years later, Key Arena was rebuilt into Climate Pledge Arena, and Seattle became home to the NHL's Kraken. But by then, the Sonics were already gone. The Minnesota Vikings also had a rejected stadium proposal before US Bank Stadium became the final answer. In 2011, the Vikings were tied to a major proposal in Arden Hills, Minnesota, north of Minneapolis and St. Paul. The plan centered on the former Twin Cities Army ammunition plant site, a large piece of land in Ramsey County. For the Vikings, it offered something the Metrodome site could not: space. A stadium there could have been surrounded by parking lots, tailgating areas, team facilities, and future development. It was the kind of suburban NFL campus that many owners preferred at the time. The proposal was expensive. The stadium itself was projected at more than $1 billion, and the site had major additional costs because the land needed cleanup, roads, utilities, and infrastructure work. Ramsey County supported the idea, and the Vikings pushed hard for it, arguing that Arden Hills would give the franchise the kind of long-term home it needed. But the state was never fully sold. The biggest problem was not only the stadium price, it was everything around it. Building in Arden Hills meant taking on major transportation and site preparation costs. State officials questioned whether it made sense to spend that kind of money when the Vikings already had a stadium site in downtown Minneapolis. The Metrodome was outdated, but it was still on land that already had transit access, roads, utilities, and an existing sports footprint. As negotiations continued, the Arden Hills plan lost momentum. The political energy shifted back toward downtown Minneapolis. In 2012, Minnesota lawmakers approved a stadium deal at the Metrodome site instead. That became US Bank Stadium, which opened in 2016. So the Arden Hills Stadium was not rejected because the Vikings gave up on a new venue. It was rejected because the state chose a different version of the future. The Vikings still got their stadium, but not the wide-open suburban campus they originally wanted. Instead, they stayed in the city, on the same general ground where the Metrodome once stood. St. Louis also had a rejected stadium plan tied to Major League Soccer. After the Rams left for Los Angeles, St. Louis was trying to position itself for an MLS expansion team. In 2017, voters were asked to approve public funding for a proposed soccer stadium near downtown. The plan included about $60 million from a business use tax to help fund the venue. The proposal had real momentum because MLS had publicly shown interest in St. Louis. The city had a strong soccer culture, and the stadium would have been part of a larger effort to bring top-level professional soccer to town. But voters rejected Proposition 2 in April 2017. The result was close, with about 53% voting against it and 47% voting in favor. That vote damaged the city's expansion bid at the time because the public funding piece was considered important to the proposal. The story did not end there. St. Louis later returned with a different ownership group and a different stadium funding model. That effort succeeded, and City Park opened as the home of St. Louis City SC. That makes the 2017 vote important. St. Louis did not reject soccer forever. It rejected that specific stadium funding plan. The later success came only after the project was reworked. The San Francisco Giants also had several rejected ballpark efforts before the team finally built what is now Oracle Park. Before the current waterfront ballpark opened in 2000, the Giants spent years trying to replace Candlestick Park. The old stadium was cold, windy, difficult for baseball, and never felt like the ideal long-term home for the franchise. The Giants wanted a modern ballpark, but getting one approved in San Francisco became a long battle. The team tried multiple times to secure public support for a new stadium. Stadium proposals went to voters in San Francisco and the surrounding region, and each time the answer was no. The idea of using public money for a baseball stadium was unpopular, and the Giants could not get enough support to move the earlier plans forward. The situation became serious in 1992, when the Giants were nearly sold to a group that planned to move the team to Florida. That would have ended National League Baseball in San Francisco. The move was blocked, and a new ownership group, led by Peter McGowan, stepped in to keep the franchise in the Bay Area. After years of failed proposals, the Giants changed the entire approach. Instead of trying to build another publicly funded stadium, they pursued a privately financed ballpark at China Basin, along the San Francisco waterfront. That project finally worked. Pacific Bell Park opened in 2000. The stadium later became Oracle Park, and the earlier rejected proposals faded into the background. But before San Francisco got one of baseball's most recognizable modern ballparks, the Giants had already watched several versions of their future get voted down.
And that's our video today on the rejected stadiums. Now, it's not all rejected stadiums. It is a selection that we curated, so I probably might have missed some. So if I did, leave a comment down below. In the meantime, my name is Justin, and I'll see you next time on TFC Stadiums. Ciao.